please welcome Avi, Emily, and Alyssa to the stage.
Wow. Wow. Okay, it's so cool to see everybody's faces, some familiar faces, some friends. Oh, okay. Honestly, this moment for us is a bit iconic. We're huge fans of Creative Mornings, and we love Feed More, so thank you so much to the Feed More team for allowing us to be here and to partner in the message. So I'm Alyssa, I'm the ops gal, and together with Emily and Avi, we are the Conscious Table. We are an immersive dining experience, and we bring people together in food, conversation, and intentional connection. Kind of loaded, but what we do is we craft farm-to-table dinners, private gatherings, and it really helps guests reconnect with themselves, hopefully, with their community and with their purpose. So we spent a year and a half or so building this dream of ours and this work together. And today we're showing up not to fill your ears with everything that we do. Join us at a dinner, you'll see. But to tell you a little bit about ourselves vulnerably and how softness has shown up in our leadership, in our creativity, and in our lives together. So to start us off, it wouldn't be the Conscious Table if we didn't take a moment of reflection and a moment of silence. So Avi is going to walk through that with us. You guys have a chance to fully arrive into this room, into the present moment, and we're excited to do it with you.
Thank you, Alyssa. Do we have to use this for the audio? Awesome. I have a thing with sounds, so I can't really talk and.
Unfortunately, whatever this sound is,
Okay.
it's not going away.
Super. Awesome. Hi everyone, I'm Avi. I'll get into what I do in a little bit later, but I just wanted to start us off with a moment of silence and reflection. So, we live in a very stressful world. I would say there's an epidemic of stress happening across the nation. Just as I was driving over here at 7:30 a.m., rush hour traffic was like insane. It's not something I do every morning. So if that's what you do every morning, peace be with you. Yes. So I will just go ahead and invite everyone to close their eyes and just experience some moments of silence and softness with me. Go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose, sending the air to your belly, lungs, hold for a moment, and exhale. Again, inhaling through your nose, sending the air to your belly, lungs, hold for a moment, and exhale. And one last time, belly, lungs, hold, and exhale. And now just bring your conscious awareness to your breath. And just focus on your inhale and your exhale. We'll do this for about 30 seconds. And really allow yourself to sink into that heart center, that soft space in the middle of your core. Now take a deep breath in through your nose, sending the air to your belly, lungs, hold, and exhale. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. If you ever find yourself in a very stressful moment, just practice this for 5 to 10 minutes and see what happens.
Yeah, it's no, but we need it for video.
Okay. I'm just going to leave this here. And then, okay.
We think this is the mirror that goes to the
That makes sense.
That sounds great.
Sounds better.
Okay. All right. Just going to preference this by saying, those of you in the room who know me, I don't typically talk about myself. Vulnerability is something that I have learned over the past couple of years, and so I'm going to really take us back to the beginning of my career. It's incredibly funny to me, and maybe to some of you guys, that I started a company with these two called The Conscious Table, because for a lot of my life, consciousness did not make an appearance. Truly. I started my career in leadership a long time ago, and I was in college at the time, so I was balancing both. And if I could just set the scene for you, I was 20-something, 23. I had a studio apartment in Manchester. I had a suitcase that was always open on the floor, clothes everywhere, and I would pack, unpack, pack, unpack. I was a road warrior for my company. I would wake up the next morning in a Holiday Inn. The budget was tight. And I would go visit one of my teams in Ohio and Michigan, wherever I was headed. And when I would wake up, I would slip on a little work dress, my highest pair of stilettos, and that was my day. I was off to visit one of my teams. I have my delusional confidence to think because that 23-year-old girl truly thought she could take on the world. And I can, but I was leading hundreds of people across 9 states. I was making really bold P&L decisions. And for better or for worse, I was confusing my worth with the work that I did or the title that I had. So my version of soft back then was the insoles in my stilettos, and that is not a good picture for my life. I was sharp, energetic. I still identify with those things. I was very curious, and I was chasing down my 3rd promotion with this company. And if you spent time with me back then, a few of you in this room, you watched me juggle 2 phones before everyone had 2 phones. You watched me skip a lot of meaningful moments in my life, and you may have watched my career completely take over. So that's when I had maybe a beginning life crisis, and it wasn't until 2024, I think, when Benita was recommended to me. I won't cry. And I took time with her to consciously and softly answer the question of who am I outside of the big titles that I've held. This was uncomfy. It was so uncomfortable for me, and it was fueled by a lot of tears. It was fueled by frustration, a lot of guilt, but honestly, on the other side, freedom. So thank you, Benita. What I knew about myself before and now is that I love to host, I love to talk, I love to lead, and food has always been a love language of mine. I want everyone, including myself, to find authentic fulfillment in our lives while we're here on this planet together. Parts of me that I used to call distractions from being the glitz and the glam of the leader that I am or was were honestly the personal soft edges, and it was the key to unlocking leadership that came from my heart and from my soul. Ultimately, I learned how to blend Alyssa the professional with Alyssa the human. Crazy. So enter the conscious table. I've known Emily for over 12 years, which is wild because we're so fresh and we're so young. And Emily introduced me to Avi, and Avi sends me into a trance of meditation every time we work together. But it really was them who trusted parts of me that I didn't know existed, and that was my creativity. So we built this really cool thing in seconds because we were very aligned and passionate about the intersection between food, conversation, and consciousness. And we built space for dinners to turn into dialogue, and that dialogue to turn into self-reflection and self-recognition. And I, at the end of the day, could still build and play around with P&Ls, which I love. It's become more than what we put on the table, though Emily's food is incredibly vibrant and delicious. It's become who we become when we're at our own table. So real talk for a second, and let me be so clear that softness does not come easy, especially when you've built a career on taking things from 0 to millions so fast. And what I learned in this experience is that not every system needs to be optimized. Not every hiccup needs to be fixed. I see some snaps. And co-founding in partnership, for any of you who own a business independently, amazing. For those of you who do it with other people, call us. Especially creative and passionate people, what they've taught me is to slow down when I need to listen and when I need to take a huge inhale, deep breath, and just pass the hummus, okay? Reflecting with you guys today, can laugh about the moments that we've had. When we've been really hard on ourselves, we want each event to be perfect. We want every conversation to be profound. But the truth is the most beautiful moments that we share are always born in the softness. The laughter between courses, when someone says something so brave at our table, and the courage that it takes for people to meditate for the first time with us. So my definition of soft has changed over the years, as you guys can hear. But soft, for me, isn't about being less ambitious, at least not for me in this lifetime. It's about being more available to life, to joy, to partnerships, to surprise as a control freak, and to creation. And so it's the courage for me to say I don't have to be everything all at once. I can just be here, honest, fully, and imperfectly. My closing advice to the room before I hand the mic off to my partners is that I want all of us to not wait until life slows down to find that softness. Like I did. Don't wait. Ask yourself, where could you be a little less polished and a little more present? Because what I've learned is that the journey that I've been on with these two is the softness where my real strength is. Thank you, guys.
Could we potentially hit the oh, great, awesome. Already. Hi, I am Avi. I am the one that does all of the conscious experience, facilitation, and guest experience during our dinners. Outside of the conscious table, I get the pleasure of coaching refugees one-on-one, doing employment navigation and mindset coaching. And I also build employee experience mentorship programs for businesses and companies, and I work with leaders one-on-one with burnout prevention. So it's really cool to see how all of this comes into the conscious table. I've been really hard on myself for years and years and years and years in many different ways. The main way really that I've learned through the conscious table is I haven't actually allowed myself to see my ability to make my true aspirations and desires become real. And it's been working with Emily and Alyssa and building the conscious table as a co-founder that I've actually learned how to see that part of me. The two main identities of me that really stick out within the conscious table are the creative mystic and the peace builder. I'll start with the creative mystic because as a child, I remember being like 7 years old, talking to trees and meditating. All I wanted to do was dig in the dirt and be outside and commune with nature, but I was somewhat forced into football and baseball and all of these sports, and I would quit them and I didn't like them. And early on, my identity as a child became, you give up, you don't try hard enough, you quit things. And it was something that I internalized. I was super spiritual as a kid, so naturally my parents were not religious, but I found myself to youth groups in traditional religious settings. And around my teenage years is when I was gay. And I was like, yo, I like guys. And I remember telling people in that religious setting and being completely shut down. So my spirituality, probably by the age of 14, 15, was completely shut off. Unfortunately, that was really detrimental for me as a spiritual person because I really needed that. The good news is my creativity started to awaken. So I was in show choir, I was the dance captain, I sung, I made music, I made beats, but by the time I was 21, I was completely depressed, completely depleted, and I was suffering from suicidal ideations and seeing a therapist. It was there that we decided I need to just take a break from everything and go and live on a nature reserve with my aunt in Florida. And the second day I was there, I found Kabbalah on Grindr. My best friend is where I met him, and he introduced me to the Kabbalah Center. And that's where I really started studying this deep wisdom about 15 years ago. I have the same teacher, Yosef Yesharoon from the Kabbalah Center. He's been incredible. And I understood that I had this intense ability to take wisdom and philosophy and really just absorb it. So I decided I would go and study religion and peace and all of these things. Now we get to the peace builder. I found myself in the Middle East during grad school working with violent communities that were violent towards each other, sitting in rooms, doing mediations, dialogue, all of these tools like emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, and the spirituality behind it. It works if you take the time to do it. And it was really, really beautiful. And at the time, the political divide in the United States was really, really sharpening, not as much as it is today. So I was like, I need to come back here and do this somehow. Not sure how it's going to work. The reality is I knew I wanted to teach consciousness and mysticism and conflict resolution. But the reality is the way I define consciousness, personal responsibility, control over the mind, and self-betterment, those aren't really sexy to a lot of people. There's not a lot of people out there like, let me figure out where my ego is today and how to work it. Like, we're not doing that, right? So the conscious table made perfect sense because Emily brings in this incredibly beautiful food. Alyssa finds these immaculate spaces and puts beautiful tablescaping together, and we create this really cool and relevant way for people to connect and commune. But I also get to sneak in my consciousness and Kabbalah and mysticism and ego work. Really what I'm trying to do with conscious experiences at our dinners is to help people overcome their fear and their egos, and to also help them feel more connected and inspired. And I do this with different leadership facilitation tools, dialogue, creative expression, and most importantly, meditation. In the spirit of the conscious experience, I want to share some ego reflections that I've done with myself or learned. First and foremost, I had this intense shame of being lazy and rest. I love to sit. I do. I love to just not do anything, and I've started to come and own that. Like, it's part of who I am. I used to feel really shameful about it. From there, the control. I love to control everything. I was the person that says, don't tell anyone to do it yourself, right? Like, that's who I was. I'm still battling it today, but I recognize it as an ego piece. And the second thing is recognition. I love to be the center of attention. And when you're in a trio, you have to share that. And I've had to really learn how to do it. It's not always easy. But this in turn, being a consciousness teacher, I started to feel shame for having ego. Like, oh, how can I teach about all of these concepts, but I actually am really a terrible person and I want to be in the center of attention all the time, blah, blah, blah. And I think that was a really hard, unfortunate way to look at ego work. And what I've actually learned, it's not about, I'm such a bad person. It's really more about, wow, there's so much more that I'm capable of. There's such a better, improved human being inside of me. And through doing this work with my team and with other people, I will constantly be able to share and reveal more of my light. The reality is that we all have so much desire to fulfill, and we have so many blessings to reveal. And I really believe the way to make it happen is through striving to tame the ego along the way, because the more you do it, it's going to get you closer. And really to see every failure that you have is actually a moment of success, of self-learning and self-betterment. And this is how I've come to learn softness with myself. So I'm going to now introduce Emily, and she'll go for it.
Hi. I don't think I've spoken with a microphone since I won the third grade spelling bee, so little flex there. It's pretty surreal to be on this side of Creative Mornings today. I know that I've been sitting there in the audience many times, and it doesn't feel like that long ago that Michelle was chasing Avian out and saying, "You guys are the conscious table?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, we need to talk." So today I'm going to teach you a quick recipe that's going to make you really popular. It's simple, it's my favorite, and honestly, this is the perfect month for it. The recipe is grilled cheese and tomato soup. I didn't invent it, but I knew someone who came close to perfecting it. First, you go to your favorite bakery, Richmond has a huge share of it, and get a loaf of whatever bread makes you happy. And then pick up some good cheese, something that melts just right. And at home, take tomatoes, red peppers, some onions, garlic, salt, pepper. Roast them until the tomatoes are just about to burst. Blend it all up, add a little cream, and you've got delicious fresh soup. When I lived with my mom in Oklahoma, this is what she made me every day after school. When I was little, that's all I wanted to eat some days. But everyone else attempted to make it, and it just wasn't the same. I used to ask my mom all the time why hers tasted better than when my dad made it. Sorry, Dad. Sitting there at the back. And she would look at me and wink and say, well, obviously, I make mine with love. It's the funny thing about food. When you talk to chefs, you see like the chef's table, and you ask them what their favorite food was, it's always going to be something that they grew up with, the comfort food, something that made them feel loved, something simple and fast. And all the technique and plating and theory disappear, and what is left is the feeling that it gives you. And that's what this meal was for me. The way I make it now is healthier, sure. I use fresh tomatoes instead of Campbell's soup can. I was a child of the 90s. But growing up, I changed schools often. My dad was in the Navy and my parents were divorced. I was a child of the 90s. I lived in Spain the first 4 years of my life, and I bopped all around the four corners of the United States. And needless to say, there was a lot of awkward trying to find what table you're going to sit at in the cafeteria moments. And when you grow up feeling a little different, you start paying attention to what makes you different. And for me, that was food. There wasn't a single moment that I decided that I wanted to be a chef. It was just something that made sense to me and captured and held my interest in a way that things didn't at that time. When I was around 20, I enrolled into the J. Sargent Culinary School, and I was very excited about it. And within that first semester, my mom had passed away. And I took off that time, I redirected, and I don't know if whoever has lost somebody, but I feel like that time after is a pretty magical moment, and you have a lot of serendipitous encounters. And when I'm reflecting on that time, I was 20, and that was around the time that I met Alyssa, I met Avi, and I started to realize, reflecting on that those friendships would become the foundation of something much bigger. And in the future, they'd be the same people I built the conscious table with. And I realized that the people in my path have always been my power. Sometimes you don't know where the path is taking you until you look back and realize every connection was intentional. I was managing a high-end boutique in DC. Years later, I lived there for about 5 years. It was a great job. They would fly me to DC on a boutique airplane sometimes, to Paris. And this seems like a happy ending, but it wasn't. I lived in an Ethiopian neighborhood there, and I would often go and eat the food there, talking to the owners about their stories, their food, the connection that it brought to them with their culture, and how they felt like connected to back home where they were from. And I realized I was living the long life. So I did what I had done from my childhood. I traveled. I cooked in Costa Rica at yoga retreats. I lived in a Bedouin village in the desert, teaching English and somehow helping open a vegan restaurant. I rode buses across Turkey where the driver insisted on sharing his food with me. I lived in jungles, islands, and deserts, and everywhere I went, I cooked. I lived with locals, farmers, learned their spices, kitchen jokes in other languages that most of the time maybe I didn't understand. And slowly I began to make sense of other people through their food. And through that, I began to make sense of myself. Cooking became the way I learned to belong even when I was far from home. I came back to Virginia. I started working at a bakery, WPA. And around that time, my friend Avi was hosting these dinner parties. I'd bring vegan dishes, fresh baked bread. We'd all gather. Steven, my boyfriend, would sometimes come and play guitar. We'd sing. But oftentimes it would just end up dancing to Madonna videos. 13 years had passed since I had left culinary school. And I still carried that feeling that I had failed. And I often wondered, where would I be if I had pursued it? And I decided to go back, but to do it differently. I moved to Sweden to attend a plant-based culinary school. Thank you. I lived in a castle from the 1600s. It was run by Seventh-day Adventists. Their community in California is one of the world's blue zones and the only blue zone in America. If you don't know what that is, it's where the population lives to be over 100. So they have the largest population of that. So it wasn't just a school, it was a way of living. Most of the students were the age I'd gone the first time around. And at first that kind of stung. Nobody wants to be the oldest person in the room. But what I realized is all those years had given me something precious. I could handle uncertainty. I could handle improvise. And every flavor reminded me of somewhere, someone, a moment, a kindness, and a story. That's the unfair thing with age and wisdom. You're eager to do everything when you're younger, but for most of us, it takes time to become the person you need to be to realize your dreams. And when I came home again, I didn't have a plan, so I went back to what I always did. I went to Avi and Alyssa's tables. Alyssa would do her Firestone pizzas in her backyard, dance parties at Avi's. We'd sit for hours talking about what it means to live consciously, to eat consciously, and to gather intentionally. And little by little, those dinners became the conscious table. It started as a dinner series, but it became something else. And when I cook now, I'm not just thinking about flavor. I'm thinking about the person who grew the food, how it was harvested, and how it might make someone feel when they taste it. Because food isn't just sourcing, it's a relationship. It's remembering that our nourishment depends on other hands. And that's the heartbeat of the conscious table. It's not about perfection or performance or even the food itself. It's about softening, connecting, and belonging. So after all these travels, if I'm cold or tired or sad, I still go back to the same simple meal, a grilled cheese and tomato soup. And that's what we're trying to do with the conscious table, bringing people back to softness, to create spaces where we remember that nourishment. It's never about what's on the plate. It's about the hands, the stories, and the hearts that brought it there. Thank you.
That's beautiful. We have time for a few questions. Yeah.
Yeah, your friends. Like, I want to be your friends. Is that question? Yeah.
You can go on our website and submit an application.
Okay. Oh, thank you. To Madonna.
Yeah, you have to like Madonna for sure.
So, other people get invited to dinner?
How do we get invited to dinner? We have a website, and I'm happy to give you a business card as well too with our website on it. But we have links to our events on there. It's a great way to stay up to date. Just find us afterwards. We'll be talking, and we're happy to, promote us if you'd like.
They're open to the public, so it's like a
They're
live
open
ticket
to the
link.
public.
Anyone
We
can
have
come.
like community. So we have 4 community dinners a year. So each season we have a community dinner, and we work with local third spaces. So we had one at Apothic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hope to have one for Creative Mornings
Yeah.
at some point.
Yes.
No, you guys did a great job talking to the topic, so thank you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people come in and talk about they do their commercial. So I appreciate that but I do really want you to have the opportunity to tell us more about the business proposition.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's like initially we were going to, but we were like, we don't want to seem like salesmen up here.
But we always want to know. So what do you have coming up next?
Do you want to? Yeah. I'm hogging the microphone.
November 16th, we have our fall dinner, and then we will have our last seasonal dinner February something, and that will be our winter dinner. So each season we bring farm to table to the community in the form of a seasonal dinner. Outside of that, we have two service options. One is the seasonal dinner and the other is private experiences. So we built the same concept with a private team or family that may be working through something. So those are the two ways you can catch us.
So who wants to have a dinner and who wants to, like, we can all go in on it? Okay, so there's that.
Let's do it.
I have a question. I'm sorry, Mary, go ahead. You ask yours. Did you have a question?
So you said you do farm to table. Are you growing the food or are you getting it from local farmers or is it a combination? And if you're getting it from local farmers, can you name some of those?
It's a great question. Avi is incredibly great at growing. So one day we'll bring his peppers and cucumbers to the plate, but we work with local farmers. So I'll pass it to Emily to share a few.
So we work with Farm Bus. They're really great. He's like amazing, and I love that his initiative of bringing food to places that maybe don't have access to fresh food. So he's been super supportive. I know that we've also worked with like Tom 10 Farm. I love going to Birdhouse and just seeing what's there. Celeste Farms as well too has been really great at donating food to us. Yeah, Easter Day mushrooms and Schofield Farms.
They're
That's where
so
we get.
great.
It's a plant-based dinner series, so we use a lot of really great mushrooms. So we have a few mushroom guys.
But you need it.
But yeah, exactly. But the Richmond, there's just like an abundance. Like the farmers markets are amazing. I'm always just super inspired going through there, and the farmers are so supportive of us. So it's a symbiotic relationship for sure.
I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Has anything ever happened at a dinner that totally surprised you? Maybe it wasn't necessarily expected. Can you tell me about that?
I feel like we all have our own stories.
Yeah. Well, I have the joy of making sure we're running on time in some capacity. And the overall guest experience as I look out and am like, is everybody having a good time? But one dinner, we had an injury, and it was with one of our servers, aka my fiance. We have an incredible team of partners. Stephen, Nick are in the room, so thank you guys. And then Avi's partner, Ron, they really help us bring it to life. We had an injury. I'll spare you some of what was really gory details. And I look over, he's really making it work. He's shaking cocktails, and I just see like the injury happening in real time. And of course I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like we're working with food, holy crap. But we handled it, and they got to stay in their lanes focused on what they did, and we got to handle and fix the situation that we were experiencing. And I think that is a testament to a partnership of three. While it's not always rainbows and butterflies, and we have some really real conversations of what we're building, the impact we want to have, and how our visions differ at times, in those moments when we're putting on an experience, having the three of us be able to focus on guests at different times is a game changer.
We have time for one more.
That's really quick. Is there a maximum number that you find is effective if you go over that number at dinner, then you're not able to do the work as well?
Yeah, I would say we started at the 20, but we just did, I think it was like 40 or 50, and that felt like a good number. I'm like for it all. So at the end of the day, I'm like, look, if we have like 200 people who want to come, we're going to make it work, and I'm going to find a way to make it meaningful and connected, and it may be smaller tables or it may be different sort of activities, whatever it may be, right? So as of right now, our aim is to scale to 50 in this coming year, whereas last year we were doing 20 to 25.
Quick.
Okay, so eating is like my best subject. Very good at it. Meditation, probably my worst subject. Like my head just kind of goes. Do you have any tips or tricks for the people who don't kind of fall into that naturally and don't have that spiritual Like my spirituality is different. It's probably tomato soup and
Yeah. I would say that's spirituality in its own way. Look, meditation can be extremely secular. You know, it doesn't have to be spiritual. And I think if you look into the Zen tradition, there's a lot of very secular techniques. I think the main thing really is the commitment to the practice and really asking yourself, why do I want to do this? You know, the reality is it works. It definitely decreases your cortisol levels. It resets the brain chemistry. I mean, the research is out there. I don't need to go through it. But at the end of the day, it does take time. And I call consciousness like a muscle. So it's not something that you can just do immediately. It takes decades to really perfect it. I mean, I'm a very egotistical person. You know, I'm not like a master by any means, right? And I think that's what I'm trying to connect with people is I still struggle with meditation, even as someone who's been doing it for the last 10 years of my life. So my recommendation is to just find something that's really simple, really easy for you, and stick with it. And I'm happy to talk more with you too, if you want to.
Perfect. One last note, just breathe. Avi taught me, because I also am in my mind, Avi taught me that I can just focus on breath and it'll bring you into the present moment.
Perfect. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you. Oh, cool, right on.